This is the Following the Joy podcast, a place to talk about being the best version of yourself, following your heart, making the changes needed, and having fun on this adventure we call life. So if that sounds like your sort of thing, then I invite you to stick around. I'm your host, Debbie Westwell, and this is Following the Joy. So this week's episode, I actually recorded as I was going for a little walk down to the beach. So I'm going to apologise now. You can hear a little bit of wind going on in the background. I get distracted by birds, but I'm just going to kind of leave it in its rawest form because I think it still helps with the message that I'm trying to get across. So I'm talking about procrastination versus perfectionism. I am basically a recovering perfectionist. I have learned a lot about this through Brené Brown, and there's also been an awful lot of research done, but mainly academically, that, you know, people who are perfectionists, when they come to academic pursuits, generally procrastinate because they want it to be perfect, and then they realise that they've run out of time, and so they just bosh in whatever they're doing. That's exactly kind of what I do, and I explain a little bit about that in this episode. Also, I've got a really good quote. There's a quote from a chap called Stephen Barnes who basically says, perfectionism is procrastination masquerading as quality control. And that is so right. And if it's proved in university research on students in academia, I think it's 100% true for the rest of life. So if you're a perfectionist, or if you know a perfectionist, do they procrastinate a lot? Or do you procrastinate a lot? Who knows? Listen to this. Hope it helps you. Hope it kind of makes some sense. I kind of share a little bit about my life, but from a following the joy perspective, we need to understand ourselves so that we can actually embrace and follow that joy and stop putting things off because, you know, we're procrastinating, or because we can't be perfect in them, and we just need to live life as it is. So here we go. And as I say, it's quite a raw episode and there's a bit of noise in the background, but I will leave it exactly as I recorded it. Okay, let's talk all things perfectionism versus procrastination. So it's an interesting thing, isn't it? I always was super proud of being a perfectionist. It was like, I'm a Virgo, I'm a perfectionist, that's how we roll, this is what we do, everything's perfect that comes out of me. And actually what I realised is that just puts an awful lot of pressure on me and nothing ever gets done. And so actually I'm also a massive procrastinator, and I've only learned recently that the two really go hand in hand. And I genuinely think that perfectionism and procrastination, the two together, have stopped me doing things in my life that has probably caused me a loss in finances, a loss in love. I guess my question to you is there something that you've been putting off? And is the reason why you've been putting it off because you are a perfectionist and you're trying to do it perfect, you're trying to do it right? And do you know what? There's no harm in that. I just kind of want to chat you through my thought process and see if anything resonates with you. So, for example, I was backpacking around Australia in my mid-20s, and I then went for years without having like a decent long-term relationship. I'd had a 4-year relationship before I went travelling, and then I just put off having a relationship. And I think the reason why that was, well, at the time I was telling myself, well, I'm never in one place long enough. Who would want to be with me if, you know, I'm moving around all the time. I want to travel more. I'm not settled down. I'll just wait until next year. And then next year came, and same thought pattern. I'm still not stable. I'm still not settled down anywhere. I love travelling. I'm moving around the globe. Like, I'll not settle down. I'll see what happens. I'll wait till next year. And guess what? Years went by and I still hadn't found a partner because I wasn't actively looking for one, because I was just like, I'm too busy. I'm putting my life, not putting my life on hold for a boyfriend, which is what I feel like I kind of have done when I was younger. I really wanted to go travelling earlier. I had the money, but I put it off because I was in a relationship where I loved him and I wanted us to experience the same things. Naive, isn't it, when you're young, that you think that actually it's not, you want to put your life on hold to have the same shared relationship and experience, but in actual fact you're two completely different individuals, and it's okay to want your own things and do your own things. And if you're with the right person, then they would support you in achieving your dreams, whether that is travelling, whether that is setting up a business, whether that is running a marathon or anything. And they would support you, even if that meant that you'd be away from them for a little bit of time. But young and naive, and so I was like, okay. So I think that left a lasting impression of like, do everything that you want to do, be a little bit selfish, and then obviously that leads to the like perfectionism side of things. So kind of that was an example of what has held me back over the years. But I have thought about starting businesses in the past, and I've never done it. I've got to the website, or I've set up a page, and then the imposter syndrome kicks in a little bit, which we can talk about in a completely different episode because that deserves one all of its own. But the imposter syndrome kicks in. Then I start thinking, who am I to do this? Have I learnt enough? Am I skilled enough? What if I could have the best website going? What if I could have the best sales page going? I need to be able to give the best. At the time I was a beauty therapist, so the best treatments available. I have to be better than everybody else. I have to be top of the class. I have to be perfect. And this has come way back from my school years and everything. So guess what? I put it off, and the business never started. And could I have lost money on that? Absolutely. Could I have lost a completely different lifestyle? Absolutely. Now, don't get me wrong. I genuinely think things happen for a reason. And we don't fail at anything. It's the first attempt in learning. I love that. And, everything serves as a purpose. If it's not working for us, it's given us a lesson. But I do think that procrastination has definitely come about in my life from trying to be a perfectionist, from trying to be the best at everything, the most perfect. I'm quite competitive as well, Don't come bowling with me, I'll get grumpy. So I guess is this hitting home with you? Do you kind of feel the same? Because all throughout my youth, I always left my essays and assignments to the last minute to do, and then I'd turn out something and I'd always get great grades, but I just think, why are you leaving it to the last minute? And then again just go, well, that's just a trait of me, that's just who I am. And same thing with this podcast. So I literally left it till a couple of days before launch date before I'd edited some of the things that I had recorded. And this is definitely a fear. It is fear-driven procrastination. I am afraid to step out of my comfort zone. I am afraid to not be perfect. And I am afraid of failure. And what's worse, I'm afraid of success. And I've had to think about that this year, because actually we all want to succeed, but are we holding ourselves back a little bit? Because actually, again, your conscious ego state brain is like, this is our safe spot, this is what we know, this is how we do things, so let's just stay here in this safe, comfortable, warm, bed-like, cozy zone, and let's not step foot outside of it, because over there is scary. But let me tell you, the one thing I've learned is just do it messy, because done is way better than perfect. Because do you know what? Nobody is perfect. You're striving for perfection. What is perfection? Perfection in one person's eyes is completely different to perfection in somebody else's eyes. And so as long as you're being the best you and the most authentic you possible, just do what you've got to do to get things out there, even if it's messy. Because do you know what? With repeat and practice, it won't be messy anymore. And then you'll be the expert in the field. And then other people will be coming to you asking you, how do you do this? How are you able to do this? How are you succeeding in this? And you'll be able to share what you've got. You might even be able to monetize sharing what you've got, So I guess my question is, what have you been thinking about, maybe over the last couple of years, maybe just recently, but you've always put off because there's always some form of excuse in your brain as to, I haven't learned enough, I'm not educated enough, I don't have enough followers on social media, like I don't have enough time in my life. If you really think hard, then you might go, oh no, yeah, there is that thing that I've been putting off. And so then my next question for you, in fact, actually, you might want to pause this and go and grab a piece of paper and then write down what you've been putting off and then come back and press play again. So hopefully you've pressed pause, you've got a piece of paper and you've pressed play. So my next question for you is, how much has that decision to put that off cost you? So if you were going to start a business but you never did, how much was your potential earnings, over how long, and how much has that cost you? If you genuinely wanted to learn to surf, and you've never done it for fear of not being slim enough to fit into the wetsuit or whatever it is, then how much joy has that cost you? And then finally, my question is, are you willing to accept that loss now and let it continue on? Or do you want to make a change and do you want to try something? That got us thinking, didn't it? So I genuinely want you to put yourself out there. Do you know what? Just do it. Do it messy. Like, I've started this podcast. I'm sure I'm not doing it the best as all of the other, top podcasters are. But if it's reaching one person, I'm happy. That's all that I wanted it to do. And everything has a little ripple effect and will ripple out. And so I'm also starting my online businesses. And again, I haven't really got a clue what I'm doing, but I'm trying to fight my perfectionism and tell myself it's okay, it's okay. Now, I do have a couple of tricks up my sleeve as to how I tell myself it's okay. I do generally try to make, list out or block out all the reasons why I should do something. And every time one of those thoughts comes into my head about, oh, I'm not slim enough, I've not learnt enough, I've not got this, you only need to be 10% further on than somebody else to be able to help somebody else, because you've already been through those steps ahead of them that they're trying to navigate their way through, whether that's in life, coaching, work, whatever it is. So yeah, I think I kind of lost myself in the track of thought there. I'm literally recording this overlooking the beach, and I've seen a little robin, which I absolutely love, and I just genuinely think they're signs from my angels and I love them. So it makes me happy. I think I'm on the right track. But yeah, so here we go, procrastinating again. So yeah, I think that just try and start whatever it is you want to start. If you want to make more friends, then go and take yourself out of your comfort zone. Go and find a little group local to you that does whatever you want to do, like wild swimming, pole dancing, knitting, whatever it is. Reach out to somebody, because sometimes actually, some people keep themselves very internal and intrinsic and can't ask for help and don't ask for help. But if you reach out to them like, hey, how are you? And just have a chat with somebody, you don't know what doors that's going to open for you, for them. And I don't know why I went off on that kind of path. Anyway, what I'm basically trying to say is stop putting things off. Like I said, for me, procrastination is definitely a form of perfectionism. And if I can share anything of my experience with you, don't put things off. We don't know how long we've got. We might as well enjoy life. We might as well, just roll with the flow. And what I always find is, if you try something, ultimately it might not end up exactly as you want it to be. It might not be that perfect thing, but it might lead to something completely bizarre and unpredictable. And that is exactly kind of how I ended up podcasting, because I quit my corporate job and then I kind of started tour guiding on the side, and then was chatting to somebody about doing a podcast about travel, and then my course popped up about podcasting, and I was like, everything flowed into place. And then here I am randomly chatting to all you beautiful listeners out there about perfectionism versus procrastination. So, you never know where things are going to lead you to. I hope some of this has resonated with you. And I want you to know you are perfect anyway, but you don't have to show perfection all the time. It is okay to start things messy. People understand, and actually they prefer you to be an actual human being rather than like a perfect robot. So if you're going to take anything away from this, have a little think about what you've been putting off for a while and try and give it a go. Even if it's in its rawest form, even if you never share it with anybody, just try and write down those thoughts, put out that podcast, be a bit more vulnerable on social media, start that business, go out and socialise, take up knitting, whatever it is that you've been putting off, try and just do a little bit. And if the procrastination comes in, just take a minute and think, why are you procrastinating? Is it because you really don't want to do something because it just doesn't light you up? Like it's work related, it's boring, it doesn't light you up? Or is there an underlying fear of failure, fear of success, fear of not being perfect? So I hope that all makes sense. I hope you go away and start down that path of joy, of just sheer fun, and just follow where it leads and it brings you out somewhere marvellous. I'd love to hear what you think about this episode. If any of it resonates with you, drop me a DM, follow me on social media at Debbie Westwell. Drop me a DM, tell me, this is what I've done, I've taken action because of this. I also can help with this in coaching. So if you are interested in working with me, again, drop me a message and I can't wait to hear from you. Take care.